Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. His political career and achievements. Everything about the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. His life, and everything about him. Part 1. Shortly after winning the Liberal Party leadership election and becoming Prime Minister, Carney advised the Governor-General to dissolve Parliament and trigger a snap election. Mark Joseph Carney was born on March 16, 1965, in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. He is the son of Verily Margaret née Kemper, a stay-at-home mother, and Robert James Martin Carney, a high school principal. 3 of his 4 grandparents were Irish, from Ogagower in County Mayo. When Carney was 6, his family moved to Edmonton, Alberta. His father was the Liberal candidate for Edmonton South in the 1980 Canadian federal election, placing second. His mother returned to university to pursue a career in education when Carney was 10. He has 3 siblings: an older brother and sister, Sean and Brenda, and a younger brother, Brian. Carney attended St. Francis Xavier High School before studying at Harvard University on a partial scholarship and financial aid. During his Harvard years, he was backup goalie for the varsity ice hockey team and was a roommate of future NHL general manager Peter Chiarelli and former ice hockey player Mark Benning. He graduated in 1988 with a bachelor's degree with high honors in economics. He then undertook postgraduate studies at the University of Oxford, at St. Peter's College and Nuffield College, where he received Master of Philosophy M.Phil and Doctor of Philosophy D.Phil degrees in the economics in 1993 and 1995, respectively. His master's thesis was titled Competitive Advantage and the Advantage of Competition, a theoretical analysis of national champions, learning by doing, and spillovers, and his doctoral thesis was titled, his doctoral advisor was Margaret Meyer. Carney spent 13 years at Goldman Sachs and worked in their Boston, London, New York City, Tokyo, and Toronto offices. His progressively more senior positions included co-head of sovereign risk, executive director for emerging debt capital markets, and managing director for investment banking. He was co-captain of the Oxford University Ice Hockey Club alongside fellow Canadian David Lametti. Carney spent 13 years at Goldman Sachs and worked in their Boston, London, New York City, Tokyo, and Toronto offices. His progressively more senior positions included co-head of sovereign risk, executive director for emerging debt capital markets, and managing director for investment banking. His master's thesis was titled Competitive Advantage and the Advantage of Competition, a theoretical analysis of national champions, learning by doing and spillovers. And his doctoral thesis was titled The Dynamic Advantage of Competition. His doctoral advisor was Margaret Meyer. He was co-captain of the Oxford University Ice Hockey Club alongside fellow Canadian David Lametti. Carney spent 13 years at Goldman Sachs and worked in their Boston, London, New York City, Tokyo, and Toronto offices. His progressively more senior positions included co-head of sovereign risk, executive director for emerging debt capital markets, and managing director for investment banking. He worked on South Africa's post-apartheid venture into international bond markets and was involved in Goldman's work with the 1998 Russian financial crisis. In 2003, Carney left Goldman Sachs to join the Bank of Canada as a deputy governor. 1 year later, he was recruited to the Department of Finance Canada as Senior Associate Deputy Minister, beginning on November 15, 2004. From November 2004 to October 2007, Carney was the Senior Associate Deputy Minister and G7 Deputy in the Department of Finance Canada. He served under 2 finance ministers, Ralph Goodale, a Liberal, and Jim Flaherty, a Conservative. During this time, Carney oversaw the Government of Canada's controversial plan to tax income trusts at source. Carney was also the lead on the federal government's profitable sale of its 19% stake in Petro-Canada. In October 2007, Carney was appointed Governor of the Bank of Canada. He immediately left his position at the Department of Finance to become an advisor to the outgoing Governor, David Dodge, before formally assuming Dodge's position on February 1, 2008. Carney was selected over Paul Jenkins, the senior deputy governor who had been considered the frontrunner to succeed Dodge. Carney took on this role at the beginning of the 2008 financial crisis. At the time of his appointment, Carney was the youngest central bank governor among the G8 and G20 nations. Carney's actions as governor of the Bank of Canada are said to have played a major role in helping Canada avoid the worst impacts of the financial crisis. The epoch-making feature of Carney's tenure as governor remains the decision to cut the overnight rate by 50 basis points in March 2008, 1 month after his appointment. While the European Central Bank delivered a rate increase in July 2008, Carney anticipated the leveraged loan crisis would trigger global contagion. When policy rates in Canada hit the effective lower bound, the central bank combated the crisis with the non-standard monetary tool conditional commitment in April 2009 to hold the policy rate for at least 1 year, in a boost to domestic credit conditions and market confidence. Output and employment began to recover from mid-2009, in part thanks to monetary stimulus. The Canadian economy outperformed those of its G7 peers during the crisis, and Canada was the first G7 nation to have both its gross domestic product (GDP) and employment recover to pre-crisis levels. The Bank of Canada's decision to provide substantial additional liquidity to the Canadian financial system, and its unusual step of announcing a commitment to keep interest rates at their lowest possible level for 1 year, appear to have been significant contributors to Canada's weathering of the crisis. The commitment to ultra-low lending rates led to a spike in housing prices and household debt. In April 2012, Carney acknowledged there were issues in some segments of the housing market, and some properties in Canada were probably overvalued, but he was not overly concerned. He stated low interest rates were not to blame, but the onus was on individuals who take out the loans, the banks, and the federal government's mortgage lending rules. Before Carney left for the Bank of England, there were calls to raise rates, as Canadians were holding record-level debt, and the housing market was overheated. Canada's risk-averse fiscal and regulatory environment is also cited as a factor. In 2009, a Newsweek columnist wrote, "Canada has done more than survive this financial crisis. The country is positively thriving in it. Canadian banks are well capitalized and poised to take advantage of opportunities that American and European banks cannot seize." Carney earned various accolades for his leadership during the financial crisis. He was named one of Financial Times' 50 who will frame the way forward, and of Time magazine's 2010 Time 100. In May 2011, Reader's Digest named him Editor's Choice for Most Trusted Canadian. In October 2012, Carney was named Central Bank Governor of the Year 2012 by the editors of Euromoney magazine. In March 2025, former Prime Minister Stephen Harper stated in a Conservative Party fundraising letter that Carney was not involved in the daily management of Canada's economy during the global recession, and Carney was undermining former Finance Minister Jim Flaherty's legacy. Carney was chairman of the Bank for International Settlements Committee on the Global Financial System from July 2010 until January 2012. Carney was a member of the Group of 30, an international body of leading financiers and academics, and of the Foundation Board of the World Economic Forum. Carney attended the annual meetings of the Bilderberg Group in 2011, 2012, and 2019. On November 4, 2011, Carney was named chairman of the Basel-based Financial Stability Board, which coordinates international financial regulatory authorities. In a statement, Carney credited his appointment to the strong reputation of Canada's financial system, and the leading role that Canada has played in helping to develop many of the most important international reforms. The 3-year term was a part-time commitment, allowing Carney to complete his term at the Bank of Canada. While there had been no indication of his priorities as chairman, on the day of his appointment, the board published a list of 29 banks that were considered sufficiently large as to pose a risk to the global economy should they fail. At his first press conference as chairman of the FSB in January 2012, Carney laid out his key priorities for the board. Carney's term ended in 2018, while he was in his next post at the Bank of England. On November 26, 2012, Chancellor of the Exchequer George Osborne announced the appointment of Carney as Governor of the Bank of England. He succeeded Sir Mervyn King on July 1, 2013. He was the first non-Briton to be appointed to the role since the Bank of England was established in 1694. The Bank of England was given additional powers from 2013, such as the ability to set bank capital requirements. In 2014, Carney warned that if the Scottish independence referendum was successful, the new country would likely not be able to continue using the pound sterling without ceding some powers to the UK. In 2015, Carney changed the number of yearly interest rate meetings from 12 to 8 and ordered minutes to be published during the announcements. I stop at this point today. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the world's incredible stories. Soon we will publish part 2. Thank you for watching.